You don't notice the trap until it's already tightened around you. That's the design. That's always been the design. It's a Tuesday when the first crack appears. Not a dramatic Tuesday, not the kind where the sky bleeds unnatural colors or the coffee you pour tastes faintly metallic. No, this Tuesday wears the mask of every other Tuesday, and that's exactly why it almost goes unnoticed. You're 3 years into your role as head of internal communications at a mid-sized defense contractor, at a company that builds targeting software for clients whose names you could never whisper at a dinner party without hesitation. You oversee a team of 11, each one meticulously trained, each one carrying out tasks with the quiet efficiency of a well-oiled machine. You manage the flow of sensitive documentation to roughly 40 external stakeholders, balancing secrecy and disclosure like a tightrope walker on a wire that could snap at any moment. By every measurable standard, you are trusted. Trusted completely, institutionally, irrevocably. And that trust, the very thing that lets you navigate your day without suspicion, the invisible armor you've worn so comfortably for years, is the very mechanism that makes you valuable, useful, dangerous. You are bait, and the hunters are already circling. The document arrives in your secure inbox at 7:42 in the morning. It's labeled PRELIM-ATLAS-REV4. A preliminary technical overview of a next-generation navigation suppression system your company is developing for a government client. You've handled documents like this hundreds of times. You read it, route it, log it, move on. Except this morning, something small snags in your mind the way a splinter catches fabric. Barely there, almost nothing, but present. The document refers to the system's operational ceiling as 42,000 feet. You're almost certain the version you reviewed 2 weeks ago said 38,000 feet. You tell yourself the specs changed. You move on. But you don't really move on. You come back to it at lunch, eating at your desk because you always eat at your desk, and you pull up the previous version. 38,000 feet. You pull up the version before that. 38,000 feet. You sit with this discrepancy for 4 minutes and 40 seconds. You will remember this duration later with unsettling precision. And then you close both files, finish your sandwich, and decide it means nothing. Engineers revise specs all the time. The number probably changed in a meeting you weren't invited to. 3 days later, the security director calls you into a room you've never been in before. It's not an aggressive room. There are no bright lights, no metal table, no one standing behind you. It's a conference room on the 4th floor with a whiteboard and a ficus plant that looks like it needs water. And the security director, a woman named Carla, who you've always respected precisely because she never seems to be performing anything, closes the door with a quietness that is somehow louder than a slam. She tells you that there's been a leak. Sensitive material has reached a competitor. And then she says the sentence that rearranges everything. They know it came from someone in your distribution chain because the document that leaked contained a version of the operational ceiling figure that only appeared in one specific copy. The copy that was routed to one specific recipient on your list. You understand immediately what she's telling you, and the understanding arrives not as a slow dawn, but as a sudden inversion. Much like an optical illusion, where the vase becomes two faces and you can never see the vase again. The 42,000 feet wasn't a clerical error, it was a deliberate alteration. A unique data point planted in a single copy of the document, a fingerprint embedded in the text itself. A canary trap. Someone said it before the document ever reached you, and you, without knowing it, walked it straight to the bird that sang. And Carla is watching you with the calm patience of someone who already knows the answer to the question she's about to ask. She wants to know who received that specific copy. You tell her, because of course you tell her. You have nothing to hide. But even as you give the name, Marcus Hale, a third-party logistics consultant who's been on your distribution list for 8 months, you feel something shift inside you that isn't guilt and isn't fear, but is adjacent to both. Yet it's the feeling of realizing that your competence, your efficiency, your pride in routing documents cleanly and quickly has been turned against you. You were the mechanism. You were the clean, trusted, efficient mechanism that delivered the trap. In the weeks that follow, you are not suspended. You are not investigated. You are, in the vocabulary of institutional crisis, considered clean, a bystander caught in someone else's operation. But clean doesn't mean unchanged. Clean just means they let you keep your badge. You go back to your desk and you begin to look at every document you handle with a different quality of attention. You start checking version histories. You start logging not just what you send and to whom, but what specific language appears in each version, cross-referencing the distribution list against the document metadata with a thoroughness that your team finds slightly unnerving. One of your junior coordinators asks if everything's okay, but you tell her you're just tightening the process. What you don't tell her is that you've started sleeping poorly, lying awake constructing scenarios in which you were the intended fall, not the accidental one. This thought, that you could have been deliberately positioned, is the one that changes your methodology permanently. You begin to study the structure of canary traps the way a person studies a disease they've nearly caught. You read everything available, which in your position means you have access to more than most. Internal security memos, historical case studies, academic papers on information compartmentalization, even a declassified NSA training document from the 1980s that describes the technique with a bureaucratic bluntness that somehow makes it more chilling. The principle is elegant in the way that all effective deceptions are elegant, simple, patient, ruthless. You take a sensitive document, you create multiple versions, each with a small unique variation, a number, a date, a phrasing choice, a name spelled two different ways. You distribute one version to each suspect. When the document leaks, the variation in the leaked copy identifies exactly who talked. The canary sings, and you find your mole. Unless, of course, the canary realizes what it is before it opens its mouth. You start designing your own. Not to catch anyone specifically, not at first, but because the act of constructing the trap teaches you how to detect one. You learn to read documents not just for content, but for anomaly. You train yourself to ask every time a number or a name or a date feels slightly off. Is this a mistake or is this a marker? Is this information or is this a test? The discipline reshapes how your mind processes text. You become slower, more deliberate. You become, without fully intending to, someone who trusts almost nothing at face value. 14 months after the Marcus Hale incident, you find one. It's in a procurement summary, a document you've received as part of a joint project with a partner organization. The summary lists the projected unit cost of a component as $14,200. You have a different figure in your notes from a briefing 2 weeks earlier, $14,800. You don't flag it immediately. Instead, you request the document again under a different internal routing number, claiming the original was corrupted in transfer. The version that arrives says $14,800, two versions, two figures. One of them is meant for you specifically. Someone, somewhere in the chain above you is watching to see where your copy goes. You are the canary now, and you know it. The decision you face in this moment is not simple. You could report it upward, demonstrate that you've identified the trap, prove your sophistication, your loyalty, your clean hands. But reporting it also tells whoever said it that you're onto them, which closes a door you might want to leave open. You could do nothing and sit with the knowledge, neither springing nor avoiding the trap. Or you could feed it something deliberately, route the document in a way that is technically correct, but strategically misleading, letting the trap catch something that tells you more about who's watching than it reveals about you. This third option is the one that interests you most. That it is also you recognize with a clarity that carries its own quiet weight. The option that means you are no longer playing defense. You are no longer the mechanism. You are the one designing the mechanism now. You sit with that shift for a long time. The ficus in the fourth floor conference room crosses your mind, absurdly. The way it needed water and no one had thought to give it any. Whether it's still there, whether it survived. You make your choice. You wrote the document. You wait. The waiting is the part no one tells you about. The operational literature on canary traps is full of elegant theory and historical case studies, but it doesn't prepare you for the texture of the days afterward. The way you begin to see potential traps in everything. The way trust becomes a structural question rather than an emotional one. You find yourself calculating the people around you, not by warmth or history, but by access and motive, which is a colder way to live than you anticipated when you first accepted the promotion that put you in this chair. What you've become is effective. What you've lost is harder to name. The person who ate a sandwich at their desk on an ordinary Tuesday and almost missed the splinter in the fabric, that person didn't know yet that competence and vulnerability are sometimes the same quality wearing different clothes. You know now. You know, and you carry it. And the trap you set is still out there, and you are still waiting to see what it catches, and whether whatever it catches will be worth the thing you spent to catch it. You don't have an answer for that yet. You suspect you won't for a long time.